Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I was just reading somebody's Facebook wall, and I read somebody's New Year's resolution was to try to be on time more this year, and they didn't really give a context to on time for what, but the resolution said they wanted to be on time more. It got a little bit of a problem with that concept. It might be a healthy goal in our Western culture, but I wish our society would just abolish the concept of being on time or being late and focus more on achieving what we need to achieve, right? What do I mean by that? Well, it's probably best to talk about it with an example of how this has operated in my life. So I used to work at a tutoring center, and our boss was really OCD about us being punctual, and it caused some a little bit of chaos in my life actually because you had to spend a lot of time making sure you were on time. What do I mean by that? Let's say I get a shift that's 1 to 5 p.m., right, which is not unusual for a tutoring center. By 11 o'clock, 11:30, you're already consumed by, can I start various tasks? Are they going to cause me to overrun my schedule, right? Uh, right, and it's like you have to spend time to be on time. You're looking at the clock. Your brain the constant thought of what time it is taking a big chunk of your mental RAM, if you will, right? They're taking up a large number of gigabytes of RAM in your head, and so you get the idea, right? And that's on a good schedule. Now imagine getting a split shift or getting 2 hours a day on a Saturday. And so I used to be a target for all sorts of schedules like that, by the way, because I had very special skills with the tutoring center. I would teach advanced math classes. I taught AP calculus, and I taught chemistry as well. I had a few students who were studying AP chemistry, and a lot of to give you an idea how good a rapport I had with the students. Part of the reason I got involved with bismuth art, I was tutoring AP chemistry. One of my students had a really, really fancy periodic table, which showed, among other things, the rarity of each one of those elements on the periodic table. I was showing my student how how rare platinum is and how it's so cheap relative to gold at the moment. And it was while doing that we realized that bismuth is almost as rare as either gold or platinum, and it's way cheaper. And so rapport like that makes my boss think of me when we have these specialty students. But of course, specialty students usually have a lot of after school activities, and so I would get wonky schedules. I would get like a split shift. The student would only be able to come like really early or really late, and and it just consumes a lot of my time, right? If I remember correctly, 2 days out of the week, I would have one student who was only available from 1 to 2, and then the rest of my work wouldn't begin until 3 or 4 p.m. And that was a pain. It was a pain because the center, I mean, it's in a good location in town, but I have no other business being in that part of town. It's not enough time to justify going home. I could probably drive home and then head straight back, right? I would just be wasting my gas, right? And it's not enough time for, and it's not like I have a lot of money to burn, right? If I did, I could probably just uh, look for an interesting restaurant over there, right? Yeah, I don't have that kind of money to burn either. And so it became a huge waste of my time. It was not enough time for me to mentally transition either, right? I can't really just take out my laptop and write an interesting AI. No, by the time I get any train of thought going, the hour is over, right? And so it was just a huge waste of my time, especially because you have to be on time, right? If that 3 o'clock were a little bit flexible, yeah, maybe I could have done something there, right? And oftentimes my boss would schedule me for 2 hours on a Saturday. Oh, but these students really love you. And by the way, if you take these 2 hours, we might be able to add a third or a fourth hour in as more students come in. And all right, I'll do it, but please try to look for a third student, right? Oh, then 3 weeks later, have you found any more students? These 2 hours are really killing me. All the students really love you, right? That was the kind of conversation that went on week after week after week after week at the tutoring center. And again, if those 2 hours were flexible, right? Kind of like when we just had to call a plumber to our home. The house I was renting had a disaster. And when we called the plumber was like, we'll be there during this 8-hour window, right? If the 2 hours of tutoring could be done like that, then yeah, maybe that might not have killed me, right? I could be flexible. Oh, whenever I have 2 hours, I'll drive to their home, right? If I could have done it that way, yeah, I might have considered it, right? It would have been infinitely better than what I got, right? And so I teach at a community college now. I don't strive to be perfect on the dot. Sometimes the students have to wait 4 or 5 minutes for me. But you know what? That beats the students not getting 110% of my knowledge because I'm constantly staring at the clock, right? And I'm doing the students a favor by occasionally not being punctual on the dot. I recently, a friend of mine set me up on a blind date, and I was so worried that my car always breaks down just when I don't need it to. And so I actually got to the general location of where that date was going to be that morning, believe it or not. And I spent the day just hiking and taking in the scenery around that area, walking distance, just so that I wouldn't miss it because my tires tend to blow out just when I don't need them to. And I wish we lived in a society where it was okay to be flexible, right? I had a car breakdown, right? But you know what? I spent a lot of money on getting that blind date to work out, and I already invested a lot of time, and I hadn't been on a date for 2 years. I didn't want to take any risk. And so instead, I spent the day in a part of Phoenix that I'd never been at, and I got some good scenery too. But I wish we had a more relaxed society that wasn't always on the dot, right? It takes it consumes a lot of time to be on time. That's what I want to say, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.